Today I'm going to show you some very basic information about the digital design program Acorn that we're going to be using. So let's start by opening it up. You can click on the Acorn. If you don't see the application in your bar here, you can click a spotlight search and type it in. When it opens, you may or may not get this screen. If you don't, in order to open up a new piece of paper, you can either click on this or you can go to File, New. When you choose a new image, this is to get a sheet of paper to work on, it gives you some overwhelming choices. The only thing you need to worry about here is the preset. So go to Preset and choose US letter because it's a size that we're familiar with. This is the size that comes out of our printer here at school. So US letter, and then you can also play around with your background color. You have 3 choices. I like to work on transparent, which means it's clear. Click OK. Voila, there is my sheet of paper. You can move this stuff around simply by dragging the top part and pulling. If it overwhelms you to see your desktop behind, just click the maximize button. What you will see here is your toolbar, your digital paper, and your drop-down menu. The drop-down menu changes depending on what tool you select. So if I select the eraser, it gives me options. If I select the paint bucket, it gives me options. If I select the text, it gives me text options. We're going to work today with building shapes and being able to move them, rotate them, resize them, and add different colors. So let's start with a basic rectangle. I'm going to click on the rectangle. Notice that my drop-down menu changes to something called vector shapes and a bunch of choices associated with those shapes. To draw, I'm simply going to click and drag. When your shape is to your liking, release your mouse pad. These little white dots are very important. They tell us that your shape is selected. If ever, for instance, if I'm trying to adjust the anchor points or if I'm trying to move my shape and I try to click on the inside, I'm simply going to draw another box, which can be frustrating. If you don't want that there, click delete. If I want to move this shape, I need to get off the rectangle tool. So I'm going to go up here to select or move tool, and now I can move this to wherever I'd like. So if you're on the rectangle tool and you're trying to move it, it's not going to work. You're just going to keep drawing more rectangles. You can also, at this point, not only move it, but you can select the white corners and change the size and the total dimensions of it. You can hover your mouse in a different area and see how it changes to look like a circle. If I do that, I can rotate my shape and release when it's at the point that I like it. And if you want to shrink your design proportionally, so this would be unproportionate. This allows me to do just about anything I want to the rectangle. If you want it to stay proportionate, you can hold down Shift and you can use the Shift key so that it shrinks all the dimensions at the same time. So there's a few tricks about rotating, moving, clicking in the center and dragging, resizing. I can change the shape if I don't hold Shift, and making it proportionate. If I hold the Shift key and then drag in, it's going to keep that same style rectangle. I can just make it bigger or smaller. You have to be on the Move tool, though, in order to do that. If I'm on this tool still, it's just going to keep drawing rectangles. Next, adding color. Let's look over here right now at the drop-down menu. The fill, which is set to this weird orange color, is the inside of the shape. The stroke is the bright green outline, or whatever color you want it to be. Notice if I unclick fill, the fill goes away. And if I unclick stroke, the stroke goes away. One of the most common things I see is students that start and they have both unchecked. So they're ghost drawing. That's not going to give you anything. So let's keep the stroke and the fill on. Within stroke, you can adjust how wide or small it is. You can adjust something called corner radius. So notice if you look at me click and unclick what corner radius means. Corner radius just rounds off your edges, and you can set how much you want it to round off your edges by. If you set it back to 0, it's not going to be rounded at all. That's about the only thing I would concern yourself with on this. This all gets a little bit confusing and unnecessary. With color, you can select your shape, and down here or up here, you can click on the current color. So I can click on that creamsicle color, and there's a lot of different ways to select color here. So I can choose from the color wheel. I'm working on the fill right now. And I can lighten or darken whatever color I choose by sliding this scale. And I can change the stroke by clicking on the stroke and clicking around. If this seems an overwhelming place for you to find colors, you can always click on the colored pencils and choose from the colored pencil box. Notice that if those white boxes, those anchor points, are not surrounding my shape, so if I for some reason click off of it and I try to change the color, so I'm clicking, I could click until next Christmas, it's not going to change this. You have to tell the computer what you want it to do. So you need to select the shape so that it knows what shape to work on, and then you can come through and make changes. So why don't you spend just a few minutes playing around with making some random shapes, moving them, changing their size, rotating them, and playing around with all of the different awesome colors you can find within a digital program.